out your hose and grab your can. We're about to integrate another Pest Geek podcast. Hi, everybody. Frank Hernandez here, and welcome to the Pest Geek podcast, bringing you the latest information on pests, products, and politics from today's leading industry sources to help you start, manage, and grow your pest control business.
Hey, welcome back. Welcome back to another edition of the Pest Geek podcast. I am Frank Hernandez, your Pest Geek, here discussing all things pest. We want to remind our audience to join in on the revolution. That's right, join in on the conversation, be part of the society. Pest Geek Podcast Listeners Group on Facebook. And we're on YouTube. We're on the web, pestgeekpodcast.com. Check out there the notes, everything that we put into the podcast. They're all on there. And now for today's topic. Hey, welcome back. Welcome back to another edition of the Pest Geek Podcast. I am Frank Hernandez, your Pest Geek. Hey, we're going to be discussing the top 10 technical aptitudes of a pest control field service technician. There's actually 15, but we're lumping 5 of them together into one aptitude with many different facets. And what most people don't understand is a lot of these technical aptitudes are both natural and taught. And a lot of these have to be taught because they are not taught in school. Most people never learn how to think and solve problems in school. The school teaches them to memorize information that they need to pass standard tests. The problem is, in the world, there are no standard tests when it comes to these issues. Most can't apply this knowledge out in the field in real life situations. So they are not taught. This is not taught in schools. It's not taught in college. It's not taught in technical schools. I mean, I went a guy who went to technical school, went to college, took all my education. None of this stuff is taught, and we take it for granted. Here is, I want you to take a pause for a minute and think about this. The baby boomers, for the most part, grew up in mostly rural America with manual jobs that required a lot of these skills. And so early on in their life, they learned these skills. We got the Gen Xers, me, who pretty much is the do-it-yourself generation. I mean, you think about it. We grew up in a time where Home Depot was rising. I remember living in Hialeah, Florida, and Florida was one of the first targets where Home Depot wanted to expand to. And I remember being like 14 years old. And in Hialeah on 49th Street, where the Westland Mall is, a lot of you people who are from Miami would know exactly what I'm talking about. The rest of you have no clue, and that's okay. But I lived 20 blocks approximately from where the first Home Depot opened up in South Florida. Okay. And I remember riding my bike over to that, because I used to ride my bike through all of those shopping centers. And I see this thing, being built called a Home Depot. I'm like, what the hell is that? I was familiar with hardware. I mean, I since I was a very small kid, I mean, I was working already on electronics by the time I was probably 12. I mean, I already knew how to solder. By that time, I had tools. I mean, I knew how to weld. I understood about electricity. I mean, I worked on 110, from the time I think I was like 12 or 13. And I would go to this Home Depot. I mean, I have these natural aptitudes for what I do. And I was just like, just gagging and just, I was just like looking at this place with my mouth wide open and thinking, what the heck just happened? And I'm the kid who would watch Bob Vila in the morning. I would watch
this old house. I was into this. I had I had a chemistry set. I remember I was telling my daughter, she says, yeah, do you want, I'm learning about chemistry. And I said, oh, I remember chemistry and being at home and having a chemistry set and just blowing things up. And she looked at me like, you blew things up? Yeah, I still remember the time where I did a concoction and I corked it and that thing just popped and it hit the ceiling and the whole ceiling of the living room was bright red. People freaked out that they were in the home visiting of what the heck just happened and what this kid was doing. That's the kind of kid I was. And that stuff a lot of it is in you that you see that in people and you got to learn to recognize it, that there is this insatiable curiosity about them. Stuff that isn't taught in school. You can't teach this. Parents don't teach this today to their kids. We're talking about a generation of millennials that are raising their kids. And basically the manual skills, the problem-solving skills, the stuff that they're going to need later on in life is not being taught by parents. It's not being taught in schools. So now, even when they graduate, let's say an HVAC tech or a whatever, graduates from technical school, they cannot be profitable for a business for a long time because they have the technical skill, but they don't have the technical aptitudes or haven't developed them yet to a point where they can be really profitable for a company immediately coming out of school. Especially in pest control, there is no training school for pest control. There hasn't been. There is no place where people go before they get their license, really, in a lot of states. This is a discipleship business where if you really want to grow people, you're going to have to homegrown them yourself now. Understand that this is the difference between 15, 20 years ago. And for you guys listening to me who are older, you're saying, I hear you saying all the time, people just have no common sense. And this business is about common sense. No, I want you to listen to me for a second. Take a step back. What is common to you and what was common to you because of the time and the place you were raised were manual labor and the ability to do certain things was common is no longer common sense. It's not taught. And what you consider common sense, listen to me, I've had this problem from the pulpit and I've had this problem in business. Pastors who start teaching theology from the pulpit and expect their congregation to understand theology and why they don't understand these things. And they forget that they went to seminary. And they don't have a seminary in their school in their church where they teach people hermeneutics, where they teach people homiletics, where they teach people inductive Bible teaching. They don't teach systematic theology. And they expect the congregation to know this. And I said, dude, when was the last time you actually taught hermeneutics in your church? Never. They look at me like, you know what? You're right. I've never taught hermeneutics. Why don't you start a course in hermeneutics? You see, so here you are, you're a 15, 20, 30-year veteran, and you get all these people coming in, applying, and you say they have no common sense. First of all, pest control is not common sense. There's nothing common sense. It's completely counterintuitive to society. You experience it every day, and yet you still insist that people have common sense. I was having a conversation yesterday, and I have it on a daily basis with people. And my job is to educate them. And this guy was not going to buy from me. He already had a quote from another company that said, look, we're not even going to touch that at that price. I would call that company and go for it. Take the deal. But you got a rodent problem, and I start consulting over the phone because this is what I do. I start diagnosing because I'm a troubleshooter. I want to know what I'm running into before we run into this. And I can do this over the phone. And I basically start quizzing him about the property. Tell me about, do you guys do mice work? He says, well, not generally. We don't do mice and rat work. We only do it for our existing clients. We don't just do that as a add-on. It's an add-on business. It's not something we like. I don't go do exclusion work, to exclude an entire house. We usually find somebody else, and we can't even find people to do that in Miami. Nobody wants to do it. Nobody wants to do rodent work. It's just because when you tell people what it costs to really do it right and not have a problem, they're going to say no. And so I start consulting them about the home. And tell me about the home. Does it have this? Does it have a crawl space? What's the condition? And we start getting into, well, it's a rental property and the owner doesn't want to fix it. And it has a crawl space and the vents are open and the doors are open. I says, and I'm looking to get these rats out. And do you have, and here's what he tells me. Here's the common sense. I'm going to give you the common sense in a nutshell. The chemical. Chemical is the common sense. Do you have like one of those, where you just throw the bait in there that stuff. He doesn't call it bait. I know what he's calling it. That you throw it in there and they eat it and basically then they get thirsty and they go out to drink, because I've heard of that. See, that's the common sense right there. That is the common sense that people coming into this industry come with. They come in with the common sense of the customer. Is there a product that you can put? Yeah, I said, yes, we can put out bait station and put that product. You can't just throw it in there, but I can put out bait station. What's going to happen is, what if he crawls in there and dies? And I start giving him the scenarios to get him to think. And this was about a 15-minute conversation. What if I put out that bait station, okay, and now you have a crawl space, and that rat's been going in and out of that crawl, he's not going to die instantly. They think that because they eat it, they're going to die. And it says, what if he crawls into that crawl space and actually crawls into the wall and dies? You're going to be tearing open a wall, or you're going to be moving to a motel because the stench is going to be unbearable for you and your wife. Yeah, I can hear them in the walls. I said, exactly. You need to trap them. You need to get them out. The company gave me a quote of $800 to do all this work. And I said, bro, you need to jump on that, because I wouldn't touch all that work for less than $1,200. And the common sense, the solving is, everybody comes into this business with the mentality that it's about a chemical, that it's about a product, that it's spraying. How hard can this be to spray something? That's what people tell me all the time. How hard can your job be to spray something? And what I tell them is, the number one thing that I think is going to make, and we're talking about building great technicians, okay? Not the guy that you send out just to spray perimeters, windows, and doors, and he's called a technician. I mean, for us, we have levels. That's a level 1 tech, okay? That's a maintenance tech. After that, we move him up to, he's able to do maintenance and callbacks on ants and roaches. That's it. Clean out techs and initial service and lead techs. That's a tech 2. And then we got a tech 3, which is a master technician. That's the guy that can go in and figure out why this is happening when nobody else is able to solve it. That's what I do now. That's my job as a level 3 tech. After they've gone in and they followed the SOPs. And here's the kind of thing, where we have SOPs, standard operating procedures, what is the need to have the aptitude, technical aptitudes? If you're just basically, because even people, I got people don't know which end of the screwdriver to hold. I'm serious. I've got people in and even and things that I thought, you got Gen Xers, millennials, that have never changed an oil in a car, and they're 30-something. They have no idea how to check the oil in that car. They have to look at a video online to figure this out. I did this when I had no video, because one of the things that I have is an insatiable curiosity. That's number one. Why is this happening? I was the kid that took the radio apart
at 8, 9 years old and destroyed it. I never put it back together. I had an insatiable curiosity. And I wanted to take things apart to figure out how they work. I reverse engineer everything in my head naturally. I'm sitting there and thinking how this works backwards, automatically. That's how I'm wired. And because I'm wired that way, sometimes I expect everyone that works with me to be wired like I'm wired. And I forget that they don't have those skills, and I have to either teach it to them or see how much I can teach and how far they're going to go. Start with Why is a great book. Simon Sinek. That book resonated with me. It didn't teach me a whole lot. It just confirmed a lot of what I already knew intuitively. A lot of the books that I'm reading, a lot of the things that I read and then I'm like, oh, it validates a lot for me, the way I think and why I need to keep doing things, and then figure out what things that I can implement, and how do I implement that immediately into my business, because implementation is where it's at. So problem solving skills are after curiosity. I want to know why that plant looks the way it looks, why that pest behaves the way it behaves, why that bacteria behaves the way it behaves, what is the cause and effect. I want to know those things. I'm just insatiably curious. The problem solving skills, determining the solution for a problem. Well, I teach on SOPs. We have very simple SOPs. If this is happening, then this. I teach kind of the way you write code, if-then statements. If then, if then, if then. After you've exhausted, if you get if then, and you get all your if-thens right, we're at 98% success all the time. It's that 1 to 2% that I have to manage. It's the 1 to 2% where I got to go out in the field and say, okay, you've done all the SOPs. Guess what? Sometimes I'll go and say, well, why didn't you do this? It's in the SOP. You haven't done this yet. And they took it for granted because they get into technicians, get into this horse blinder, tunnel vision, where they're in production mode and they go in and they're just operating on SOPs, relying on the SOPs, and then shutting off the problem-solving part of their brain. That if they keep trying it and thinking, well, the product, and I keep saying, how many times have I told you that you put absolutely zero faith in your product? I don't care who the manufacturer is. I have zero faith in every product. I use the product, I use the tools, but I have to rely on what I observe and what I monitor and what I check. I don't rely on the chemical. And they put this reliability on the chemical that, well, it should be working. I said, yeah, but why isn't it? Why isn't, if you've done it 3 times, why isn't it not working? Why is the standard SOP not working? You're missing something. And it's that determination of how to solve. Troubleshooting skills is identifying what went wrong. We walk into a home. There's holes everywhere. The customer isn't going to seal. Rodents are getting in. And here's the problem I have with putting out instant rodent bait stations. This is the standard. We're going to sell you a rodent program. What's the rodent program? Rodent bait stations. And a lot of you who have been in this, you're saying, but it's understood that you're not going to eradicate that problem. It's just going to reduce it. The customer doesn't understand that. The customer understands that you sold me a rodent program. Why do I still have rodents? Well, you have roaches. The solution is sell a maintenance program for roaches where you're spraying baseboards for roaches that are 8 feet in the air inside the outlets. Inside. Do you see the problem? That it's about, we forget about what went wrong. Why aren't we getting, is the person a hoarder? Is that house full of cardboard boxes? That's going to make it much tougher. What went wrong? Did we fail to, I had a situation a couple of weeks ago. Silverfish in a condo high-rise in Aventura. And this is, very, very lucrative, very expensive. This is big money condos. And, $1 million kind of deal. Calls for silverfish problem. That's common in apartment buildings here. We remember we're in a subtropical environment. There's, people say, well, you got to get rid of the humidity. Dude, we live in humidity. I mean, we're at 85, 95, 100% humidity, in the winter. Most people don't understand that South Florida is the only subtropical environment in the continental U.S. We have a totally different ecosystem, totally different climate system than anywhere. It's totally unique in the United States, in the 50 states, including Hawaii. Hawaii is not in the tropics. And, okay, and then, go back. We drop monitors, and we put a lot of monitors in place. Come back and say, hey, she's complaining about moths, and that she had moths in her other apartment, and she's worried about it's going to eat her clothes. Well, where are her other apartment? Well, the other apartment is in New York. And then we lay on the monitors, and we find, there's clothes moth. And we also find book lice, SOSIDs. So, dude, there's a huge humidity problem in that place that needs to get addressed. We got to figure that out. Why? Because you're giving me examples of silverfish and SOSIDs in a high-rise condo. That's a luxury condo. The place is clean. Are there a lot of books around? Is there hoarding? This is no, bro. The place is immaculate. There's a humidity problem. See, and we keep asking, what product do you use? What product do you use? What product do you use? You may need just to rent a dehumidifier and get that place dried up. You're looking at the product, not looking at the cause of why it's happening, not troubleshooting. And it's not common. Even in technicians, in professional technicians that have been doing this a while, companies do not want to teach you to be critical thinkers. Because that puts a lot of people uneasy, puts a lot of managers uneasy because they're insecure. And they don't want their people to be that good. They're intimidated. I've seen it happen time after time. I mean, when was the last time somebody talked to you about problem sensitivity? The ability to recognize and identify the existence of problems. This requires that you think for a minute of the entire problem as a whole, and then the elements of the problem, breaking those elements down of what could be causing this. It's not the ability to solve the problem. It's just we don't get taught to think about why it is happening. What are the elements that's causing this? It's customers. Well, aren't you going to spray something for this? We've got to get to, and I tell people, I got to understand first what's happening, because I can apply all the product in the world, and then 2 months later, you're still dealing with this, and you're saying, but I paid you to do the problem, and you didn't solve it. No, you coerced a technician into applying a chemical. That because we remember, we are an instant gratification society right now that wants everything now, solved now, in the cheapest possible way. And chemical is still the number one thing in people's mind. Critical thinking, using logic and reasoning. to find weaknesses and strengths and alternative solutions and to think, what is the, in other words, here is an example. We for all the talk of IPM in schools, in universities, the fact that it's federal law, that every building has to use IPM, and that means that you monitor, inspect, and use the least toxic method. If you can trap it, glue board it first, great. If you can exclude it first, great. And then only use a chemical when absolutely necessary. The fact that it isn't even practiced in the facilities that claim to be IPM facilities that are mandated. Why? Tolerance. People don't have a tolerance for pest. So you got to establish a threshold tolerance now. So we really don't have IPM. We have ICM, Integrated Chemical Management, is what we really have. Well, that was discussed back in the 30s. That was not discussed just recently. Finding an alternative solution to something. I said, look, if you fix the crawl space holes and you repair all this, yeah, I'm talking to the owner, he's not going to do that. Then you're not going to have the control. You can put out rodent stations. I mean, I've got a building that I did, and I recommended they do the exclusion work, and they still did, and we're still getting rodents in that building, trying to figure that out. And I've got rodent stations outside. I've got catch-alls inside. The place is sealed. I spent an hour going through that building to find 2 possible openings. One of them, which I corrected because there was a deficiency in the door, and I stuffed it and sealed it, and we were able to stop that entry point. There was the only entry point left in the door after they went ahead and installed overhead garage doors that are sealed. This is a very sensitive facility because they got millions of dollars of electronic equipment. And trying to figure out how the heck did this guy get in here? This is the stuff that I can't send my operations tech, my maintenance tech, my lead tech, because they gotta be able to produce. We gotta be honest and transparent. They have to be able to produce. And if they're stuck in a building for an hour and a half and they can't find the problem as a tech, they're not producing. So it's my job as a manager to go in there, to be the guy who knows more than they do, and to spend the hour observing, the 2 hours, whatever time it takes, to figure out why this is happening. And that is the reality of why there are no problem-solving skills taught, and why critical thinking isn't taught, and why problem sensitivity isn't taught in pest control, why we teach very little deductive reasoning. Just simply apply the rules and the regulations and go step by step and make sure you didn't miss anything and deduce where the problems might be and then start working from there. It's top down. Sometimes you need to start backwards and start bottom up. You have to use inductive reasoning. What concept and what rule might fit this to solve this problem? Because it doesn't seem like maybe, and this is the ability to step back, look at something and have 13 years of experience, plus a lot of training. And I go to experience and training. I'm getting ready I really want to go to see Bobby Corrigan in 2 weeks in Florida at PMU. Which is Pest Management University, University of Florida, and I think it's in Opaka. They got the 3-day course, but that's been booked, and I just want to go and take that course because I need it. I need to look at the number one rodent expert in the world, probably, with probably 30 years of experience doing this. who founded an academy, I need to go listen to this guy of what he has to say about rodents. I don't care what I know. I'm putting, you got to put your ego aside and say, what don't you know? And go out there and listen to this guy. Bring those skills back and teach it to my people. So this whole idea of problem solving, critical thinking, deductive reasoning, inductive reasoning, this is all needed. The great techs, the great techs, a lot of you guys that went solo, that say, I don't want a technician, I'll do this myself because nobody's ever going to do it the way I do it, have a lot of these skills already fine-tuned. And this is why you're good. What you need to do is, the reality is that if you want other people to be great, you're going to have to invest that in them. And the problem is that a lot of you owners, and I talk to a lot of guys, they're in the office, they're doing the administrative stuff. They're focused on the business growth. They don't have time for people development. That's where the problem is. That's where the vicious cycle is constantly, where you will leave a company, complain about the fact that you didn't get any training, that nobody cared. You go start a company, and then you're hit with the sad realization of why they didn't do it. Because you can't do it now. You don't have the patience to sit there and take somebody by the hand. And when I look at training and pest control, I look at it just like biblical discipleship. Jesus said, look how I do it. Look what I do. Here's what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to take you by the hand, and I'm going to show you how to do it. Discipleship is a lot like teaching somebody how to do woodwork. And we're going to take the carpenter analysis for a minute. I want you to stop for a minute and reflect upon this. There's no way that you can teach carpentry from a book. Not finished carpentry anyway. Rough carpentry, yes. Not finished carpentry. You can't teach texture of what something feels like when you're touching a grain and you're saying, okay, we used 100 sandpaper, 200 sandpaper, 300, whatever the grid is. You have to be able to say, you see how this feels, and run your hand across that for a minute and feel that. Close your eyes. Let's do a Mr. Miyagi moment for a moment here. And close your eyes, and you see how this wood feels, and you see how this one feels. Do you see the difference? No, I don't see the difference. Run your hands across it. Now you feel the difference. That's how you know it's finished, when it feels that way. It's not how it looks. It's how it feels. And a lot of you guys who are solo operators, I hear the conversations of, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. And then you're going to get hit with a different reality. Because I got hit with that reality. Guys, I have to struggle with training just like everybody. I mean, on a daily basis, I got to have conversations with my guys. What's going on? Why is this happening? Okay, did you do this? Did you check this? Constantly going over those SOPs. Really, it's mostly about repeating and repeating and repeating and repeating. And a lot of you guys don't have the patience to repeat yourself. See, you gain the ability. Now you can't pour yourself out into somebody else. And that's really what it's going to take. A lot of these cognitive related skills, job related skills, are taught and they're reinforced through training. Training is daily. You can't send somebody to training once a year. It's daily. Moving on to number 3, we covered curiosity and problem-solving skills. Number 3 would be highly organizational skills. Planning and prioritizing work. Organizational skills on keeping product organized in a truck. I am a student of Winslow Taylor. When you get a chance, look up Winslow Taylor. A lot of you guys will have huge issues with Winslow Taylor. That is so archaic, that management style. Take the principles of observing how people work and then seeing, oh, now I know why he's taking 45 minutes in a job. I didn't teach him that way. Why is he doing it that? He decided he's going to change it. after you taught him to do it one way, he's going to do it another. He's taking an extra 15 minutes per job. Look at every process. I said guys like struggling cleaning windows. Says, you're struggling cleaning a window because you're not standing in front of the window. Stand in front of it. Don't stand on the side and try to clean it from the side, pushing and pulling on the Webster. You stand in front of the window and you go in a circle pattern. Boop, 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 and you're done. I mean, think about things like this. And when I look at lean, and one of the things that I take away from lean constantly is the ability to look at waste at every level. Where is the waste? When he's making 3 trips to that vehicle, when he could make 1 trip by observing his work, what if I got him a caddy? Because he's carrying constantly these 3 products into this is why I have a backpack where we carry everything into the home that we're possibly going to need in that home 95% of the time. And I got rid of tools that they weren't using that was cumbersome to use and get it. And now I'm getting ready to get rid of another one. And by doing this and observing, because one of the ways is the way you work, but when you step back and you observe somebody else work, you realize all the flaws in your program. You got to step back. Look at Winslow Taylor and look at how, I sit there with a timer and I time them. How long did it take from start to finish? How long did it take this task? How long did it take that task? That's how I do it. They're like, dude, that's like micromanagement. No, that's not micromanagement. That is management. Micromanagement, we sit there and say, no, you're going to do it this way. And no. You're going to do it this way. And forget it. I'm going to do it for you because no. We don't micromanage. This is part of training. And when I say, look, don't do it this way because you're going to spend an extra 8 minutes. Yeah, but it's easier for me. It's not easier. You've set that in your mind and you don't want to change your mind. But it's 5 minutes you're taking extra for no reason at all. If you change the process and you do it this way, you get rid of it. Now multiply 5 minutes times 10, 15 stops a day and you've got an extra stop in there. That's how I look at it. So whatever equipment I have to get my people, whatever tool, to make them more efficient, I will spend the money on it. I don't care. Because I look at the production and the quality and I'm, if it takes the fatigue away, I look at ergonomics and I said, man, there's a lot of fatigue in the way this job is being done. Can we get rid of the fatigue somehow so that the tech can work more comfortably, the tech can be more productive? Organizational prioritizing work. The tech has to understand when he gets into the home, how is he prioritizing the work? I say do the SOPs first, do the inspection, do the identification, do the SOPs, and then go back and say what else needs done that I need to add on to this. And we get to the position, well, I did this for the customer. It wasn't on the work order. I'm never going to scold my people for going above and beyond for a client. I said, look, I did this extra. I took an extra 15, 20 minutes. But if I wouldn't have gotten this done for them, she's going to have another problem. And I said, bro, you did the right thing. Always do the right thing by the client. If it's going to take an hour and we're looking at, hey, this is another $100 and something. But if it's something that, hey, you can fix 10, 15 minutes, spend the time in the home, organizing, prioritizing the things that are important, that's not going to generate a callback, even if it's not something that's covered. And you let the client know, hey, listen, this isn't covered. Don't expect it every time, but I did this for you. The next time that this happens, here's the price. Now you got an upsell. Does the person like to learn new skills and concepts? New skills and concepts. I love to learn new skills and concepts. I'm constantly looking out for what's the latest technology in this industry. And here's the problem with a lot of pest control technicians that have been in it for 10, 12 years. It's working. I'm not changing it. I don't care what's new. I see it in conferences. I went to meetings where they're done. You guys that are baby boomers and a lot of you Gen Xers are done in this industry. You don't know it. You're kind of like the guy who got bit by a rattlesnake and doesn't know he's dead. You don't want to learn anything new. You don't want to change anything. You won't take any chances because you're comfortable and you're done. Because the next guy that comes along, one of your technicians, is not going to grow. See, your people cannot grow if you're not growing. If you're not pushing them to grow, if they don't see you grow. And what you're going to do is look at the podcast I did on breeding your own competition. What you're going to do is you're going to get a guy, you're going to train him, he's going to go work for somebody else. He's going to start up against you, and he's going to build a company 10 times your size. He's going to put you out of business. And that's what you're afraid of. But you know why that happens? Because you're done. You still need to be a person that is growing constantly. Continuous improvement, the need for continuous improvement, number 5. They're always, what I focused on is some of you guys want to make these leaps and bounds in your business, that you already got 3, 4, 5 techs that are all in shambles. They're all doing their own thing. They all have their own SOPs. There's no SOPs in the company. There's no manual. Basically, everybody does whatever they want to do. And you want to take you're tired and you want to bring this to the next level, you can't. Because you don't have the patience now for incremental 1% improvement a month, 1% improvement every so often in milestones. I focus on 1% improvement. I get a product 80% right, I launch it, and then I start improving it. I don't worry about getting it 95%. You're procrastinating it to death. Continuous improvement. Attention to detail. If you don't have attention to detail, you will never be a great technician. You're going to be a mediocre technician. Trust me on that. You're constantly overlooking things because you're in a rush, because you're in production mode. And I constantly have to tell my people, get out of production mode. I see my tech sometime. He's zoned in on production mode. And I said, dude, did you realize the ant trail up on the wall? No, I didn't see it. Why? You should have saw it when you were doing your window cleaning, because that's when you're doing your inspection. I mean, when I'm window cleaning, I'm inspecting gutters. I'm looking up. I'm looking around. I can window clean. I can clean my soffits. I'm looking for trails. I'm looking for this. I'm looking for that. The attitude is, well, we applied the product. It should solve it. Really? What SOP is required for this house? Because it has this ant problem. Remember, we got 7 ant species here that we're dealing with. Far more than most people ever deal with. Which required a change in protocol and in different times of the year when they're switching from glucose bait to a protein bait or carb bait. We need to change it up. And if they got that ant, they know they need to change it up, and they just get lazy and they'll just apply the spray. This is constant, guys. This is constant. You got to learn that this is going to be constant. You're going to have to keep repeating yourself. Adaptability. Do people adapt? Most people just trench themselves in. They're not flexible. They're not adaptive. So in this business, you got to learn to be flexible, because the insect will kick your butt every time. The insect is more flexible than you are. You see? And you have to be adaptable. One of the things that most people, it's a must, and we're having a crisis in this. Reading comprehension skills. More kids are graduating from high school who are illiterate in the age of information than any other time in history. When the United States ranks continuously number 16, 17 in math and sciences in the world, when third world countries have a better education system than we do, we have a serious problem. Reading comprehension, you need to be able to read those labels. You need to be able to interpret those labels. It is your responsibility as a technician to learn it. It is my responsibility to make you aware of it, teach it to you, but at the end of the day, you're held responsible for the reading of that label. Math skills, simple math skills. Adding, subtracting, multiplying, and division. And how and when to apply that math skill. We have to do a lot of math measurements, and especially when we're doing big gardens and systemic treatments, and we have DBH, the diameter breast height for trees, and we have height of shrubs, and you have to be able to do simple math problems. They're not complicated, but you'd be surprised how many people can't figure that out. I give them the formula. I said, this is the formula. You measure this, then you multiply it. You use pi to get the DBH, and then you take so many milliliters per that DBH and this much water, and they're like, there's no way I can figure this out. I have no ability to do math skills in my head. Simple math skills. And lastly, we're going to talk about administrative and clerical abilities. Believe it or not, you've got to do a lot of documenting, a lot of recording. I'm constantly battling in the field. Why didn't you document that? Why didn't you take a picture of that so that we can show the client? Why wasn't it in the report? You're just recording the chemical and you're moving on. There are no notes in here of what you're going to tell me you showed up to a property and you did not observe a problem? No observation and not recording it. Because you're in production mode. You've got to take a lot of documents and document a lot of stuff and be organized and have a system where you can document that. So these are a lot of skills that a tech needs to develop. If you're going to be making, if you want to make that, you want to be the tech that makes that 25%, that gets to be the top 1% in the country. You want to make the 25% production, that $23 to $25 an hour pay. You got to have all these skills. Look, to think that you're going to come into this industry as a new tech, you're going to come in between $10 to $13 an hour, not knowing anything. And your first year, if you're good and you got all these skills, you can excel. If you're with a good company and make that 20, 21% commission production, that $16 to $18 an hour. And in 2 to 3 years, as you move up in the company and become a lead tech, you can be making that $650 to the $70,000 a year. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen because you just were there a year and you're doing everything. The idea as a tech, I hear a techs all the time saying, "Dude, you don't understand, bro. I'm doing everything. I've got this down. All right. How are you solving this problem? Huh? Yeah, exactly. You see, you're not as smart as you think you are, and you don't know as much as you think you do. You really got to get around really sharp people that can sharpen you. You got to expose yourself to other people that are better than you. You think that you're going to be so great because you can do all the jobs. You can clean the windows. You can spray the perimeter. You're handling the ant callback. You're handling that occasional roach callback. You're doing a crack and crevice. You know how to bait. You think that makes you an expert technician. That makes you an expert chemical applicator. When you're able to solve and diagnose and find difficult problems that nobody's finding and solve them, that makes you an expert. That requires years of experience. I said, he gets antsy. And I said, dude, you're not going to learn what I know. I can't transfer you my knowledge. You have to develop that in the field over time because I can't teach you about things that you haven't encountered yet, because when you encounter them, even if I give it to you textually, you still won't be able to apply it in the field of how you're going to do this. There's no way I can prepare you for every possible thing. Too many variables, too many scenarios, too many human interactions. We discount the human problem in this. You have a client with bad habits, in a bad construction, with a bad pest problem. Man, you have to do a lot of psychological work there to help that client. So it requires a lot of these skills, these cognitive skills. And I hope it's helping you guys. I hope this is helping you be able to lead your people better, be able to know what to look for, be able to know how you're going to be able to move in that growth stage of your life. And we're, I made a promise that in 2020, we're a week away from a new year, that I was going to give you guys my best. I always have. But this year, we're going to go and give everything away. Every secret, every step of the way, every knowledge that you're going to need to grow. And here's why I'm doing it. I want to take a moment to tell you why I'm doing this. I have been now on this earth going on 50 years. I'm 49. I have seen a lot of things. I have taught in many capacities, and I've seen the major problems that companies have, that people have, that organizations have, and I can pretty much reduce them into one hand. I've learned to simplify things. And here's the reality, that I can tell the whole world every secret. At the end of the day, 1 to 3% of you are ever going to do anything with it. The other 99 to 97% aren't going to do anything. I've been in leadership in church where I know that 4% of the church is doing everything, and the other 94, 96% are sitting there doing nothing, saying amen and hallelujah and praise the Lord. They deceive themselves, Scripture says, by thinking that by listening, they are doing. By knowing, they are being blessed. There is no blessing in the listening. There's only blessing in the doing. You see, that is, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. So, while people are going to conferences, listen, and I've been listening to Tony Robbins and Zig Ziglar and all of these guys for 30 years now. And you can buy the next tape, the next program, go to the next conference, buy the next book, and you will get all the fuzzy wuzzies. And you will come back and say, yeah, we're going to do this. And then you encounter the reality of a boss saying, yeah, we're not going to do that. Yeah, but it can't be done. Not here. Can't do it here. And that fizzles out. You buy all this and you go into all this and you listen to all this, and then you're hit with the reality of having to implement. See, we live in an information age that everybody's thinking information is the key and information is free. I can give you the free information, and 97% of you will not implement it, will not do anything with it. See, I'm only interested in the 1% to 3% that is going to do something. And that's the guy that usually that nobody is helping, telling, doing, but he's willing to. He's willing. A lot of you guys are struggling because nobody's telling you. And what they're telling you is BS. So I decided I'm giving it and going into full transparency this year. And we're giving it all away. I have proven in my business that I can give 100% of the information away to the client, and they will still end up hiring me in the end, because when I give them everything they actually need to do this job, it's overwhelming. I give them the facts transparently, and yet my business grows and I get more business, where you would think it's counterintuitive that if you gave them the solution and you told them what to do, that they would not hire. I had one guy told my tech, I watched the video because I have a demo video that I send every client of how we're going to do their service. And we showed them and said, listen, this is our unique selling proposition to you. There is nobody in the world, number one, that's going to tell you how they do their service. Number 2 is they're not going to show you. And number 3 is I want you to know what you're buying. So I created demo videos of every process that we're going to do of how we're going to perform that service in their home, showing them our IPM process, start to finish, 10 steps. He says, oh, I probably won't call you guys back because I saw the whole video and I can do this myself. 30 days later, we were out there still doing it. He's not going to do it. They're not going to do it. They've already tried and failed. They don't have the patience. They don't have the technique. By the time they bought all the product that's needed to do that job, it's cheaper to hire me than for them to buy all that product for a one-time service. Understand why I'm doing this. We live in a new age, in a new information age, and those days of the schools having all the knowledge and the conferences having all the knowledge. My beef always with my pastor was, why don't we have a Bible Academy, why don't we put it online? Oh, no, because we want people to come here and study. We don't want to give it online because then we're not building members, you see. And it was a selfish, self-righteous thing to do when it wouldn't give away the gospel message because we couldn't get people into our building. Guess what? I always had a beef with that. I had a beef with that 20 years ago. The church is saying, well, the gospel is between the 4 doors and we're not getting it out. And those that want to get it out are heretics. Those that dare to do it differently are heretics. That's why I'm a heretic. That's why the title of the documentary we're doing that we're planning for next year, it might take a year to do. It's called Heretic. Because people, especially those baby boomers who don't understand that the days of the information being locked up in conferences behind closed doors is done. That's you're like, again, you got bit by a rattlesnake and you're dead. You just don't know it. It's time. The guy with the most information in the end wins. The guy not that hoards it, the guy that gives it. See, it used to be the guy who has all the information wins. In this new age, the guy who gives it all away wins. A lot of you are in this business. My competitors who are doing training and who are doing information and who are doing programs and are doing online stuff. People, don't you realize that he's already doing that? And don't you realize that this guy's doing that? I know what everybody's doing. But they don't have the end game, the long-term game in mind. See, I'm setting myself up for the next 20 years. I'm telling you what I'm doing. I'm being totally transparent because everybody can try. The thing is, you can't copy me. You can't copy my culture. You can't copy my enthusiasm. You can't copy what I do the way I do it. You can do your own thing. But I'm looking at the next 20, 30 years. I got the long game in mind. I'm patient. I don't need to rush. Why it's taking me 5 years when guys have come out and immediately start setting up programs? They need to live off of that. They want to make money off of that. I will make my money in other ways. Why I haven't taken on any sponsors? I took on one sponsor. And I decided, I don't want to take on any sponsors. It's not my style. I got other things in mind. I got great things for people that want to do great things and that you shouldn't have to struggle. But at the end of the day, I can give you all the information. It's up to you whether you're going to. How many guys do I have a conversation to call me on a weekly basis? What are you doing? And what are you doing for? I said, look, bro, this is what it takes to do it. Oh, bro, that's a lot of work, man. Yeah, that's why you're not doing it and I am. Because you still have to implement. At the end of the day, listen, guys, I want to give you this last word. No New Year's resolutions. Implement. Take what you haven't done and just do it, dang it. Stop making New Year's resolutions. Just do it. Nike nailed it and has nailed it with just do it. It's that simple. That's the key to success. Just do it. Fall on your face, fail, get back up, try it again, watch, rinse, repeat. I hope that you guys are blessed. This is probably going to be the last podcast for the new year, and we've got a new year podcast. We've got a new intro to the podcast that's new and exciting. And we're going to be doing a lot of new things next year, guys. And I am excited about where we've gone, where we're going, what we've done. There's been a lot of stuff along the way that you have no clue of how I've had to deal with things in the last 2 years, both personal, physical, health, monetary. It's been a challenge, but we're moving forward and we're doing new things in the new year. And I'm excited about what's coming. Keep looking out for the Pest Geek Academy because that's going to be the launch of new things to come next year. Until next time, guys, hey, have a pestacular day.
We hope you have enjoyed this edition of the Pest Geek Podcast. Until next time, have a pestacular day.
Thank you for listening to the Pest Geek Podcast. If you have enjoyed the Pest Geek Podcast, please give us a rating, write a review, or subscribe to the channel. You can join the Pest Geek Society by visiting pestgeekpodcast.com. Thank you for listening. See you next time.